Hi, Mr. Secretary. So it was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product.
Hey, Patriots, it's Gary Franchi, your chief White House correspondent for the Next News Network, reporting live outside the White House on April 29th, 2025, with the inside scoop on what just went down in the press room while the fake news media mockingbirds pluck away inside, spinning their narratives. Now, the briefing ran from 8:38 a.m. to 9:07 a.m., day 100 of Trump's historic second term, and it was a zoo in there. Way more crowded than yesterday after Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tipped everyone off. Now, I couldn't ask my bombshell question, and let me tell you, this is one the deep state certainly wants buried. Now, I plan to grill Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on the late Aaron Russo's America Freedom to Fascism, where the former Congressman Ron Paul admitted that no law requires a Form 1040, yet the IRS targeted folks like Special Agent Joseph Bannister and IRS Agent Sherry Peel Jackson with criminal prosecution. Now, I wanted to demand, will Bessent, with whistleblowers Shapley and Ziegler in the Treasury leadership, probe IRS fraud, unlawful wage seizures, DOJ's political targeting, or IRS enforcement on Americans never made liable? And what's that update on ending the IRS and replacing it with the External Revenue Service when no law requires a 1040? So why does this matter? Because the ERS could end the IRS's reign of terror. But the press pool ignored it. Punchbowl News in the new media say today got close, asking about tariffs replacing income tax. So stay tuned, I've got the full exchange. Also in this report, we'll dive into Caroline Leavitt's remarks about the First Lady's big win and Leavitt's 100-day wins rundown and the fiery reaction to Amazon's shocking anti-Trump move. Let's roll clip one to see what Brendan Pearson from Punchbowl News asked.
Thanks so much for being here. I have a question for Secretary Bessent. On tariffs, the president said over the weekend that we are hoping that maybe tariff revenues could replace income tax. But we also keep hearing about the deals that the administration is pursuing. So my question is, what is the White House's ultimate objective here? Do you want to have long-term tariff revenue or deals that might reduce those tariffs?
I think it's a combination of both. So we're going to take in long-term tariff revenue. We put a process in place. We have 18 important trading relationships. We will be speaking to all of those partners, or at least 17 of them, over the next few weeks. Many of them have already come to Washington. What President Trump is referring to is the ability for tariff revenue to give income tax relief. And I think there's a very good chance that we will see this in the upcoming tax bill. The president campaigned on no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and the restoring interest deductibility for autos, for American-made autos. So tariff income could be used for tax relief on all those immediately.
So you think that there is a role for significant tariff revenue in U.S. fiscal policy?
I think that it is something that got put away a long time ago, and I think that tariffs will bring back American manufacturing and generate substantial revenues.
Now, Pearson's question about tariffs replacing income tax grazed my topic. Trump's tax reform could tie to ending the IRS, which my question directly addressed with the ERS proposal. But Bessent didn't mention the ERS or IRS reform, and the press pool let it slide, ignoring the IRS's alleged corruption and the ERS's potential to fix it, a massive oversight. Now let's hear how the briefing started with Caroline Leavitt's opening remarks regarding the First Lady.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy first 100 days. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the bipartisan Take It Down Act passed the House last night. This important legislation was championed and guided through Congress by our wonderful First Lady, Melania Trump, including through her direct advocacy on behalf of survivors during her passage, the passage efforts. The Take It Down Act criminalizes the publication of non-consensual intimate imagery and requires social media and similar websites to remove such content within 48 hours of notice from a victim. The First Lady thanks all those who voted in favor of this important legislation, and the President looks forward to signing it when it arrives on his desk.
Levitt then dove into Trump's 100-day wins. Let's hear that now.
Today officially marks 100 days of promises made and promises kept by President Trump. This has truly been the most historic start to a presidency in American history. After building the greatest economy in the world in his first term as president, President Trump is in the process of doing that all over again. The American people trust in President Trump. Since his first day in office, President Trump has focused on defeating the Biden inflation crisis, bringing down the cost of living, and making the United States the best place in the world to do business, invest, create jobs, and innovate. And President Trump's efforts are working. 345,000 jobs have already been added since the start of President Trump's term. Last month's jobs report saw nearly 100,000 more jobs than economists predicted, and it was the fourth highest month for private payroll growth in the past 2 years. 9,000 manufacturing jobs have been added to the economy already. This is a sharp contrast to the 6,000 manufacturing jobs that were lost each month in the final 2 years of the Biden administration. The U.S. employment rate remains at historic lows. And thanks to President Trump, Americans are seeing price relief for the first time in years. The last inflation report showed the first consumer price decline since the COVID pandemic, a decrease in energy prices, and real average hourly wage growth. President Trump is delivering on his promises to lower costs for American families and businesses. Prices across the board for everyday goods have seen declines since this president was inaugurated. From airfare to used motor vehicles to prescription drugs, prices are dropping. In fact, last month's drop in the price of prescription drugs was the largest ever recorded. And after Joe Biden botched the response to the bird flu, President Trump and Secretary Rollins' aggressive plan have brought down wholesale egg prices more than 50% from Inauguration Day. President Trump ended Joe Biden's reckless war on American energy and fossil fuels and has restored American energy dominance. And Secretary Wright, Secretary Doug Burgum are working hard on that effort every single day. Oil and gas prices are now way down because of this bold approach. Gasoline prices down 7%, energy prices are also down as well. The Department of Interior just announced a new offshore drilling policy that will boost oil production in the Gulf of America by 100,000 barrels per day. On the deregulation front, President Trump is committed to cutting senseless red tape, especially for America's small business owners who are the backbone of our economy. We know cutting regulation leads to lower costs and higher growth. The mass deregulation effort by this administration will help usher in the golden age of America, which is underway.
Oh, and she wasn't done. She highlighted deregulation, saving $935 billion, $11,000 per family of four by rolling back Biden-era rules like the EPA's tailpipe emission standards. Investments are flooding in, $5 trillion committed, including $500 billion from Apple, $500 billion from Nvidia, $100 billion from TSMC, and $500 billion from OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank, creating 451,000 high-paying jobs. And Trump's tariffs force 100 countries to renegotiate trade deals, and a massive tax bill looms, promising the largest tax cuts in history, border security, military advancements, and spending reforms. She then handed it off to the Treasury Secretary, who faced questions on trade deals with China, India, Japan, South Korea, covering supply chain shocks, negotiation timelines, and election impacts abroad. Now, Bessent said that India's high tariffs make them easier to negotiate with, and deals with India and South Korea are close. Elections are not delaying talks as countries want deals before campaigning. Now, a question about Amazon's tariff display marked a fiery response from Levitt. Let's watch the fireworks.
Hi, Mr. Secretary. So it was reported this morning that Amazon will soon display a little number next to the price of each product that shows how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the cost of each product. So isn't that a perfect, crystal clear demonstration that it's the American consumer and not China, who is going to have to pay for these policies?
I will take this, since I just got off the phone with the president about Amazon's announcement. This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise, because as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing.
Is Jeff Bezos still a Trump supporter?
Look, I will not speak to the president's relationships with Jeff Bezos, but I will tell you that this is certainly a hostile and political action by Amazon, and Secretary Bessent made that.
Yeah, I would also add that the bringing down the terrible Biden inflation has been a priority for the first 100 days of the Trump administration, and President Trump has done a great job of leading that since January 20th. Interest rates, mortgage rates are down, gasoline and energy prices are down. We're expecting the further decreases, and as Caroline said, the big tax on consumers that goes unnoticed is deregulation or regulation, and we are deregulating and bringing that down. So from a household income point of view, we would expect real purchasing increases. We've seen them over the first 100 days, and we would expect that to accelerate. We are doing peace deals, trade deals, tax deals, and deregulating. And the deregulation is a longer lead time, but I think by the third and fourth quarters, that's really going to kick in.
Now, the press pool's silence on the ERS and IRS abuses is deafening. They are dodging the real swamp. Now let's talk about President Trump and how he's marking his 100 days in office. He's got a packed schedule today. At 2:10, he's departing the White House for Joint Base Andrews from the South Lawn. At 4:10, he's delivering remarks to the Michigan National Guard at Selfridge Air National Guard Base. Then at 6 p.m., he gives his 100th day in office achievement speech at Macomb County Community College Sports Expo Center, a big moment to tout all of his wins in these 100 days. And then he's returning to the White House at 9:15, landing on the South Lawn. Now, I'll be doing my live show, The Raw Feed, when he returns, where I'll be covering it all, bringing the unfiltered truth while the fake news spins their lies. So, there you have it, Patriots, your inside scoop, straight from outside the White House. Trump's delivering on all of his promises, but we need answers on ending the IRS and draining the swamp for good. Stay glued to the Next News Network, as we'll be here all week pushing for the truth. This is Gary Franchi for the Next News Network in Washington.